evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us to participate in this forum. You have received my written testimony, and I was going to read from that. Let me just tell you that the written testimony is the Irondequoit Central School District answer to the 5 topics on the invitation. That's what I gauged our answers with. I am proud to say that I'm only a few years behind you, Aggie. I have 40 years of experience in education. I'm a Fairport graduate. All 4 of our kids graduated from Fairport, and I've been lucky enough to work in the Fairport, Brighton, Victor, and West Irondequoit districts in my career. This is my 11th year as superintendent in the West Irondequoit School District, a district where our motto is each child belongs to all of us. Think about that. Think about the power of a phrase like that, and I will acknowledge that I stole it, as all good teachers will do when they hear something good, from a wonderful special educator named Mike Wishnowski, who is at St. John Fisher College now, when he used to serve on the Board of Education, and they used to talk about that phrase. And ever since that course, we've talked about that in West Irondequoit. Each child belongs to all of us. What does that mean? It goes back to what Aggie mentioned. Teachers know their kids, and we are allowed to serve each child through the differentiation of instruction. The differentiation of instruction is one of the most difficult things for any teacher to do. And the measure of success is the attempt to get to every single one of their kids every single day with what every single one of their kids needs individually. And I have seen over 40 years phenomenal teachers able to not only plan to do that, but to be able to pull it off. I will tell you that in 40 years, I have never worked as hard as I have done in the past 2 years to protect teachers. Now, you may think that I should be up here saying I should be protecting the kids. If you protect the teacher's ability to teach, to take risks, if a teacher won't take risks, how are we going to allow our kids to take risks? And if they are worried about an unfair system that's going to rate them, then everything that they do is going to be colored by that system. And so I bring to you tonight 3 ideas that we could do, as all good teachers do when a lesson plan maybe isn't working that well. They monitor and they adjust. The State Education Department will tell you that we did differentiate, that we have 700 different APPR plans because we negotiated with our local unions. However, they won't say how long it took for the APPR plan to be passed over the phone with folks following a rubric of their own. So we really didn't get to negotiate locally. And I would suggest to you what I've suggested since Senator Flanagan's commission last year, and you have a copy of my letter that indicates my thank you to him for having that forum. Let me just read to you. Please accept this note as a thank you for considering my testimony on Monday, October 22nd, 2012, regarding the 75-25 APPR proposal. Again, this would allow for school districts qualified by a proven history of rigorous supervision and high achievement to locally negotiate from the 60-20-20 APR legislation to the 75%, 25% state testing. What I'm saying is, if we do have local control, if that's what folks are going to say, let us negotiate with our unions around the local 20%. I will tell you that if that was passed immediately by legislation, there'd be about 20 districts in this area within a week with memorandum of agreement with their unions to drop the local testing that is part of this 60-20-20. I'm a realist. I've been doing this a long time. I hope that some of the comments will allow us to work towards better decisioning, but until that happens, let's lower this stress on kids through the teacher stress on this APPR. Let's go with 75% of the rubric and supervisory, rigorous feedback loops, and 25% of whatever state standardized testing, because as much as I agree with what I've heard here tonight, I don't think that we're going to get out of standardized testing completely. And if We're working towards that. Let's at least lower the stress level on teachers. What will that do? First of all, as I stated, a follow-up to my testimony, please know that each bullet on my cover letter reviewed below was intended to address my growing concern that our collaborative efforts designed to improve the education for all students of New York are being undermined. That was last year. You're here because you've seen the results of exactly that prediction. What will the 75-25 concept accomplish? Better inform instructional practice through regular, specific feedback. Differentiated instruction allows teachers to address each student's learning needs, just as differentiated implementation of APPR would allow rigorous supervisory programs to continue to achieve at the highest levels with less loss of instructional time. What would the benchmarks be? Someone earlier mentioned 98% graduation levels. Could be advanced designation regents diplomas. It could be a variety of benchmarks that school districts that are already reaching these levels could continue to do their programs that have proven successful. It will maximize instruction through the reduction of total numbers and times of student assessments. You may hear from the State Education Department that there's already a waiver system. Well, that waiver system we've already taken advantage of. By virtue of the way we developed our APPR, we were able to limit the number of local exams to under 100. There are districts represented here today that are giving over 1,000 additional local exams, pre and post tests, because of the 20% local and the way that it was negotiated and the way that they had to get their APPR approved so that they wouldn't lose state aid. Reduce the cost of the APPR mandate. This is last year now. The cost to implement APPR in the West Irondequoit district so far, October 2012, is over $400,000. 4,300 staff hours spent on APPR, approximately $200,000. State education member said to me, Jeff, you would have been working on professional development anyhow. You would have been spending that money. And I respectfully said, Ken, we would have been talking about instruction, not rating systems and number systems, and forcing teachers to look over their shoulders at that. Computer capacity. Do you know that we have to consider keynoting, teaching keynoting to second graders so that they're ready to sit at the computers and be able to take a test in third grade? Do you know that we have not enough computer capacity in any district in this area, let alone what's happened in every state where all the school districts have sat down to test at one time? And legal advice, approximately $15,000. Two last points. Acknowledge exemplary New York State school systems. I had provided 12 pages of documentation about what an exemplary school district might look like. And don't stop there. Don't stop there. Promote partnerships and collaboration between the exemplars and others who may not be at that level. The three bullets that I add to the answer of number 2 are allow for the local control, 75-25. Kevin McGowan mentioned earlier field test questions. I'd like our tests to come back to our teachers so they can do an item analysis and inform their instruction. Short of that, because the State Education Department doesn't have the money to build that many questions into the tests every year, short of that, at least let's not force the kids who are the best test takers to stop in the middle of the exam with questions that are field test questions that don't count. Let's put the field test questions at the end. That's something we can do very quickly, very easily, right away. We can do that. We can get rid of the local exams through negotiations. And finally, and this is probably the hardest, if you could restore the gap elimination monies that we've been losing since the good Governor Patterson used that strategy, that would help us. We are $2.5 million in the hole still as we start our budget season. And I know that's probably the hardest one I'm asking you for, but that is something that's very important. Would you have any questions for me as a 40-year veteran before I sit down?
Not right now, because we still have a lot of speakers to go through.
Thank you for the opportunity.